You can't say that
LMB and
the only
HAV.
factor.
My in the submission, humble submission, the LMB and distinguishing other two factors in the licensing regime. For LMB, it is different. The whole contention is distinguishing revolves around LMB. For LMB, it is different. The whole contention is revolves around LMB. It's based on HMB, it is different because of the load factor. It's based on weight only. Para 9 minutes. In difference to the contention of the petitioner with regard to the compliance of Section 7(1) of the MVR for driving a transport. In difference to the contention of the petitioner with regard to the compliance of Section 7(1) of the MVR for driving a transport vehicle of the Act. It is respectfully submitted that as per the definition contained in Section 2 does not exceed 7,500 kg and therefore LMV includes the transport vehicle is deemed to be does not exceed 7,500 kg and therefore person holding a license to drive in LMV is deemed to be authorized to drive a transport vehicle and does not exceed 7,500 kg in weight. Also extends to driving thus a license to drive in the same weight and LMV issued under Section 10(2) also extends to driving a transport vehicle in the same weight category as providing.
Table 10 you have already discussed.
10 I've already discussed.
Go to 11.
11 is
table 10 you have already discussed.
10 I've already discussed. The legislative
Go to 11.
Has 11 is defined the transport vehicle weight. One humbly submitted states that the legislative wisdom has correctly defined the transport vehicle weight up to 7,500 kg as an LMV can be driven by a person who has been issued a license under reference has correctly interpreted the meaning of the transport vehicle in this honorable court in a decision under reference has correctly interpreted the meaning of the transport vehicle in consonance with the intention of the legislature as laid down in Section 221 of the MP Act 1980. In order to substantiate my argument, the few paragraphs of it articulated, I'll read them. Where it has been fairly rightly articulated is an important aspect of the Act, and it cannot be overlooked because of other provisions.
Which paras they were?
Para 17 in the middle, I will read. Placitum C.
Referring to what exactly? I couldn't get that.
I'm only
judgment. You were talking about some judgment.
Lordship, the Mukund Devangan judgment.
Mukund Devangan.
I'm sorry. I'm reading para 17, my lord. That is at page 74 of Mr. Dave's compilation.
Which is worrying is which is worrying, that which is troubling, that apropos what Mr. Devrat argued, Mr. Kaul, the result of this would be that all those transport vehicles which fall within the ambit of the definition of light motor vehicle and which are less than 7,500 kgs by weight, they will all get out of the insurance cover. So smaller transport vehicles. If we take this construction, which you have suggested, which prima facie, I mean, we indicated to them also is a correct construction, but can't ignore the fact that then they will lose the insurance cover completely. Smaller
vehicle will not lose the insurance cover. It is only when it is driven by somebody who only has an
that's what we are saying,
license.
That there will be no insurance cover if the driver was basically a driver of an LMV.
That
But
will
the
happen.
moment it is driven by a driver,
That will happen a lot in every case where a driver who doesn't have the correct kind of license drives a vehicle for which he is not authorized to drive. In every case, that will happen. So therefore,
no, it's the driver.
It's the driver who's not validly authorized to drive the vehicle for any even a transport vehicle above 7,500. Manoj, if a person who is not entitled to drive, whether under or over, is driving a vehicle of a class that he is not authorized to drive,
But
it's
then
not the vehicle at
people-
all.
No, no, not the vehicle, you're right, but I said that by mistake, but the consequence would still be that
he is not
people
having
are
the
affected
license.
by an accident involving a vehicle which was driven by a person who only had an LMB license and therefore by necessary implication excluded from driving
therefore,
a
I have a suggestion.
small transport
Your
vehicle.
Lordship's concern is
Lose
right.
the benefit
Although that is
of,
not something that will happen.
compensation.
Supposing you drive a large bus which is more than 7,500 kilos, the same thing will happen. If you drive it with an LMB license, you will not have the insurance cover. That will always happen if you do not have the correct license authorized to drive that vehicle. Now,
But within 7,500,
correct.
within 7,500, Mukund Devangan would have extended the benefit
Right.
of
So therefore, I had a
the
suggestion.
remedial provisions of the Act.
I had a suggestion, my lord. Your lordship yesterday mentioned about prospective overruling. Now, so that it is made clear that henceforth, in any case, you cannot with an LMV license drive a transport vehicle. But in prospective overruling, there are two things that I was suggesting. One was that where some court has given you compensation which has been paid, that will not be reopened. Nobody will have to give back that compensation. The other was because of the confusion that Mukund Devangan created in 2017, people may have been thereafter thinking that they are authorized to drive with an LMV license, a transport vehicle less than 7,500 kilos. So if the accident has happened between the date of Mukund Devangan and your Lordship's judgment, in case it comes in our favor, then that will not be governed by your Lordship's judgment, but will be governed by Mukund Devangan. These are the two
Classical
exceptions.
prospective.
Yes, so these are the two exceptions, namely, one.
Knowing in life, it's not unimaginable that light motor vehicles get to be driven by persons who have only non-transport licenses. It's possible. In all such cases, even if we say a prospective overruling,
Lord, it
that
is,
situation emerges and continues to happen in the country.
it may
So
happen
in
that
all such
a
cases,
heavy
insurance
motor vehicle
company
is
will
also used
refuse to
not by a
grant.
person.
Insurance will say
In
that
all
well, I
such
can't take
cases-
compensation.
But we are contrasting it with the realities of life. So in
Not the
reality, this is what is going to happen,
Yes.
that somebody will drive a transport vehicle, light motor vehicle. Though we have declared the law, but that's going to happen. Invariably, somebody
But
will.
that surely will not, that.
And a large number of cases will be there, but that segment of the
So
population.
my answer to that is
Lose
that
it.
that cannot, my lord, determine.
We
There is-
understand that.
There is a
We are
defense.
only
And legality, we are
flagging
just impact, we are the
flagging a
consequence.
concern.
Correct. That's why I was saying, my lord, that your lordship's concern may be valid to the extent that because of the confusion created by Mukund Devangan, people have been driving it thinking that they are authorized to drive it. So that class of cases can be accepted. Otherwise, my lord, a person having no license can drive a vehicle. It happens, my lord, many people drive without licenses, even though the car is insured. Now, can it be said that, well, because of that, the insurance will not be valid, therefore,
On interpretation, we don't need.
I'm not just on the interpretation, I'm on the impact of it also. Lord, the
But also you
whole
are-
point is the insurance company has insured the vehicle saying that I am giving this insurance only if a person who's competent to drive this vehicle drives it. Otherwise, I'm not insuring it. So therefore, my lord, can the insurance company be told, sorry, even though you insured it for a person having a valid driving license, but it happens in life that people without driving licenses drive it, so the insurance will have to be.
We can reduce the legal license, it's going to be prospect.
section.
The only way out that your lordship may have to give a window period after the judgment, get the license.
In fact, my lords, what will happen is,
Publicity of the.
what your lordship is
environment.
suggesting will actually encourage people to now take an endorsement on their license, which was till now not being taken. That will also be with publicity. And if your lordships are to vote in our favor,
And
would
to get an
encourage them to
endorsement.
take an endorsement.
To get an endorsement, it is like, upgradation.
Yes.
So you need to undergo the training, you need to undergo the health checkup and things.
Because otherwise the impact would be on the day of the judgment, there would be lots of people who will go jobless, especially people who are driving Uber and all, my lords. Ola, on the strength of the LMB license, jobless the day the judgment comes out.
Do that's in 4 months.
There's a social angle to this. But there is a social angle to this. The point I am making is.
But please see section 150. Section 150 is a defense which is made available by the statute to us, which says that if you do not have a valid driving license, then the insurance policy will not be valid.
Right. That all we are with you, Mr.
I'm
There is no
sorry.
difficulty on that. We are not.
So therefore,
Not against you on that.
the moment your lordship says that even though a transport vehicle will not fit within the contours of LMV, and if you have a license to drive an LMV, you will not be authorized to drive a transport vehicle. But if you have done so, the insurance policy will still be valid. That would be totally contrary, my lord, to the provision of the Act.
That we have heard you, now. Yes. All right, let's, Mr. Devrat, complete. Devrat, now we've seen your submission. Anything else that you want to?
Lordship, I just want to read few paras.
Para 17,
Yes,
noted.
we've noticed that.
Custom C law, I was reading from the middle. The provision of section 3 of the Act requires that a person, in order to drive a transport vehicle, must have authorization once the license is issued to drive motor vehicle. It would also mean specific authorization to drive a transport vehicles or omnibus, the gross weight of the motor car, road roller or tractor, the unladen weight of which, as the case may be, does not exceed 7,500 kg. The insertion of transport vehicles category in section 10(2)(e) has no effect of obliterating the already defined category of transport vehicles of the class of LMV. The distinction is made in the act of heavy vehicles, heavy passenger motor vehicles, medium goods vehicle and medium passenger motor vehicles on the basis of gross vehicle weight. That is my contention, Milord. Or unladen weight for heavy passenger motor vehicles, heavy goods vehicle, as the case may be, exceed 12,000 kgs. Medium goods vehicle shall mean any goods carriage other than LMV or HMV, whereas medium passenger motor vehicles means any public service vehicle or private service vehicle or educational institution bus other than a motorcycle, invalid carriage, LMV or HMV.
Made a minute. Thank you, Ms. Devrat.
Lordship, just
That's
one
the-
paragraph, if you Lordship
Yes.
may.
We'll hear some, yes.
Below para 39.
Tell us
of
the
this
para.
Para 39 of Devangan.
Devangan Road.
All right, we'll make a note of that.
Then your Lordship may kindly also, my Lord, make a note of para 55 and 58.
Okay.
My Lord, 39 actually summarizes everything, Lord.
Yes. Thank you, Ms.
Lordship. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Lordship.
Yes, Mr.
May it please, my lordship. My submission will be, my lord, basically twofold. The first part of the submission is on the very basic interpretation of the definitions and the provision under the Motor Vehicle Act. The other fold of the submission will be on the point that the impact is already secured. I will point out that as well at the end, my lord.
So first, what is the first
So
submission?
if my lord, would please have a fresh look on the aspect of the definition. So if we have a bird eye view on the definition aspect, so we have a class of vehicles which is as per the weight. We have a definition of a light motor vehicle which is up to 7,500. We have a definition of heavy goods vehicle and passenger motor vehicle, heavy passenger motor, which is in section 2 clause 16 and 2 clause 17, which is also exceeding 12,000 weight. We have a class of medium goods and passenger vehicle, which is defined in section 2 clause 23 and 2 clause 24. There is no specification with respect to the light goods vehicle or light personal vehicle, light passenger vehicles. And my lordship, all these definitions are very interconnected as far as the weight is concerned. The other aspect is the kind of vehicle and the name of vehicle. So if you have a bird's eye view, as far as the definition is concerned, we have a class of vehicle which is purely on the basis of weight. We have a kind of vehicle. And we have a name of vehicle. It is interesting to note that the name and kind of vehicle does not specify any weight in it. There is absolutely no mention of weight in the name and kind of vehicle. I will take for example, my lordship. If we see section 2 clause 21, my lordship, may please see the act now.
Have you formulated it, Kaustubh?
My lord, I have
No, what you're saying,
my
have
written
you
submission, but
formulated-
in a very short form. But I'm just expanding it, my
No,
lord.
no, I'm just asking, have you formulated what you said? No.
Yes, ma'am.
You've given us written submissions?
There is, my lordship. But my lordship, what I am right now argument is beyond my written submission.
Yes, you got
Okay,
it.
then you can go
So-
ahead.
Now tell us, just to take it forward, you are
Yeah.
saying there
Three
are
categories.
three categories.
See section
Class
2
of
clause
vehicles,
21.
what class of vehicles based on weight? Just give us which are those provisions so that we can
Yes,
just
ma'am,
take
please.
it.
Section 2 clause 21 first, it is for LMV, which is up to 7,500.
Just give the numbers.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
221 then?
216 and 217, 223 and 224. And all these definitions are very perfectly interconnected, my lord.
Okay, now so far as those vehicles which are go by name, non-weight, what are
yes,
those?
sir.
A kind of vehicle without reference to weight. That's the second thing. Which is that? Kind of vehicle without reference to weight.
My lordship, first is the transport vehicle,
Clause.
247. There is a tourist vehicle, 243. There is a tractor, 244. There is a semi-trailer, 239. There is a private service vehicle, 233. There is omnibus, 229. There is motor car, 226. There is a motor vehicle which is in general definition 228. and there is goods carriage 214.
214.
Yes, Marshal. So, Marshal, may see in all this,
These are kinds of vehicles without reference to weight.
without reference to any weight. There are kinds and names of vehicle without reference to any weight.
Kinds and names.
So,
Together.
the main benchmark for identifying a class of vehicle is weight. And after the definition provisions, the whole act has to be interpreted considering the weight of the vehicle. Before that, my lordship, I will just point out by way of an example at how perfectly it is interconnected. Here, my lord, please see section 2+21, which means a transport vehicle, as defined in 247. Now, the transport vehicle means a public service vehicle, which is also defined as to what is public service vehicle. And public service vehicle also finds mention in 217, which is the heavy public motor vehicle, and also finds mention in medium public motor vehicle, medium passenger motor vehicle. So it finds mention in a weight category between 7,500 to 12,000, which is the medium public motor vehicle, and it also finds mention in the weight category above 12,000, which is the heavy public service. So much likewise, even the education institute bus. Let's take the other example in the definition of 247. So the education institution bus also find mention in 217, which is the heavy public service vehicle, and it also find mention in 224.
What you are saying is there is no very clear distinction between vehicles based on weight and vehicle based on name and.
It is very clear distinction only on the basis of weight.
So they are all integrated. So what's the sequitur?
So much like the significance is going to be the interpretation of the further provisions in the Act based on the definition. So as per the bird's eye view about the definition clauses, the definition is primarily a basic classification on the basis of weight. We have a classification up to 7,500. We have a classification from 7,000 to 12,000, and we have a classification above 12,000. The interesting part is that the everything which is defined is already defined in the definition clause, as well as it's mentioned in the class. So definition is also there, and the very same kind of vehicle also find mentioned in the class. If I am able to make my
Which
point.
is the category of 7,500 to 12,000?
It is a medium. So, my lord, may please read 223, for example. Means any goods carriage, so much goods carriage is also find mentioned in 247. Means any goods carriage other than light motor vehicle or heavy goods vehicle. So light motor vehicle is up to
7,500.
and
These
heavy goods
above
vehicle is 216 above. So there is a very perfect categorization. And in order to further expand the example, let's take another example from the definition of light motor vehicle. Let's say omnibus. So much omnibus finds mention in the category of light motor vehicle, but omnibus also finds mention in 217, which is the heavy passenger motor vehicle. And omnibus is also defined in section just what exactly is omnibus. It is defined in 229. So much likewise, the kind and name of vehicle which is defined in the whole definition scheme of the Act has nothing to do with the weight. Weight is a separate classification altogether. Because we find a very common name in across the class of all the vehicles. If I am able to also satisfy my lord, therefore, my lordship, let's take example of motor car also.
What you do is you have good points you have raised.
Formulated
That doesn't
for us
seems
to
to be existing in the written
I
substance.
will
Reformulate it
Yes, I will definitely.
along with these sections and then give it to
I
us.
will
And then give it
definitely,
to us.
because all these sections are very much interconnected.
No, I know, you are,
I will
you are
just put it
you are
down
drawing
on a
it in
piece.
a different kind of a scheme. You formulate it for us.
I will do it, my lordship, and I will. And therefore, the definition has to be seen in a bird's eye view. It can't be seen in isolation. The definition of a transport vehicle, all only a definition of a light motor vehicle.
You have given us
Every-
that now, those classifications, yes.
Because every word mentioned in the definition of light motor vehicle is already defined in the other provisions.
Anything else? Give it to us.
Yes, my lord.
About 2 or 3 more pages
Well,
linked to your own submission. Let's share it with the others.
But other part is, as far as to understand section 3, 4, section 3, 4, 5, and 6. Actually, what we need to understand first is what is section 7. My lord, may I please see section 7 for a moment. It is the restriction on the grant of learner license for certain vehicles. So it specifies that it is the restriction for grant of learner license for certain for a certain vehicles. And my lordship, what are those certain vehicles is to be inferred because the word uses transport vehicle unless he held a driving license to drive a light motor vehicle for at least 1 year. So like if a person wants to basically, if a person wants to apply for
But
a
it's not militate against your submission. That means you
E-
can't get a learner's license for a transport vehicle unless you have a light motor vehicle license and you have held it for 1 year.
light motor vehicle, my lordship, as per the definition, which include a transport vehicle up to 7,500.
Right.
So it is very clear that so like the basic restriction which
You are saying
section 7 is talking about.
7 also read it as exceeding 7,000.
Because it has to get measured, because the word transport vehicle is already defined in section 2. And therefore, the most appropriate interpretation in my submission will be,
So you are trying to, therefore, this section will have to be recast.
yes,
No person shall be granted a learner's license to drive a transport vehicle, bracket, which does not fall within the definition of a light motor vehicle,
Yes.
bracket complete, unless he has held a driving license to drive a light motor vehicle for at least 1 year. So we'll maybe reading in some provisions into the statute.
because a plain reading of this section says that a person is already having a
So Devrat was saying that interpret 10(2)E also in a different way, therefore. So you're now saying, look, 7 also will have to be slightly structured in
because
interpretation.
a person is going to apply, he's already having a driving license so it is therefore
Only if your transport vehicle exceeds 7,500 in weight, that this prohibition in section 7 comes into effect.
yes, but if a person is applying for driving a transport vehicle above 7,500, because the word light motor vehicle is here. He the word, so they have consciously put the word light motor vehicle here. So they've consciously put the word, and a person must be having for 1 year. So a transport vehicle, as per section 7, is a transport vehicle which is above 7,500. It is not a transport vehicle which is having the same meaning as
You
LMB.
give us this.
Yes.
So really
So after-
speaking, we will have to rewrite all those provisions of the statute now, including those for medical certificates, etc., to mean that those will apply to only those categories of transport vehicles where the weight exceeds 7,500.
Actually, my next part is on the medical certificate also. And so much, if we read the section 8 and 9, if we see the pattern, like in which section 8 and 9 has been drafted, we see a very similar pattern. Up to proviso number 6 and 7 of the respective sections, they deal with the transport vehicle. And after the proviso, they deal with the light motor vehicle. And my lordship, if we read subsection 1, which says that it is subject to restriction mentioned under my lord, section 7. If my lord may please read the first proviso of my lord, section 8. Any person who is not disqualified under section 4 of the driving motor vehicle and who is not for the time being disqualified for holding, obtaining a driving license may subject to provision of section 7. And my lord, interestingly, if my lord would see the subsection 3, it says every person to drive a transport vehicle under subsection 1. So, my lordship, basically subsection 3 is it taking you in a reverse gear to my lordship, subsection 1, and the subsection 1 is taking you to subsection 7. Because, my lordship, it actually talks about the application. Application for.
की होगी
एक बार
सही कहा एक बार तो हम जमकर पार्टी करेंगे केक काटेंगे सेलिब्रेशन करेंगे एक जोकर भी होगा फिर चाहे मैं ही जोकर बन के क्यों ना आऊं
पापा मैं 11 की हो रही हूँ 5 की नहीं।
सही कहा गुड नाइट बेटा
मेरा था।
क्या?
वो फरिश्ता, वो मेरा था। आपने और मम्मा ने मुझे मेरे पहले कम्युनियन पर दिया था। वो मेरा फेवरेट था।
वो बहुत डर गई थी। उसे कुछ
वो
ऐसा
आपकी
चाहिए
बेटी
था।
नहीं है,
जानता हूँ,
वो सिर्फ एक रूह है और कुछ नहीं।
जानता हूँ।
उसे उसकी मंजिल तक पहुंचाइए और फिर हम सब साथ होंगे।
हाय।
हाय।
एक बात बताओगे? एना कौन है?
क्या?
सुफिया ने मुझे तुम्हारा दिया पेंडेंट दिखाया। क्या एना तुम्हारी बीवी का नाम है या बेटी का? क्या तुमने उसी की आवाज सुनी थी जब उन्होंने हमसे बात की? अगर तुम बताना नहीं चाहते तो कोई बात नहीं, लेकिन इससे तुम्हें मदद मिलेगी और मैं फीस भी नहीं लूंगी। मेरे लिए ये मानना आसान है कि जो अभी भी जिंदा है। मैं यही तो चाहती हूँ। उसकी आवाज सुनने के लिए मैं कुछ भी कर सकती हूँ।
So it is therefore, my lord,
मेरा
basically section 8 and section 9 are, my lordship,
उसकी बात
they
मत
both
सुनो।
have been drafted in a very similar pattern.
पर वो
It
उसकी
is
नहीं
very
थी।
important to observe the pattern in which
ये झूठ बोल रही है।
my lord, sections are also drafted.
हमारे डर को
Because like section,
ये आपका भरोसा तोड़ना
like
चाहती
my
है।
lordship, section 8 clause 1 and 3
बहकाने के लिए।
takes us back to section 7 in a very similar manner, my lordship. Section 9 clause 3b
हुआ है तुम्हें?
also takes us back to section
क्या हुआ है?
section 8 clause 3, and accordingly to the my lordship restriction, as far as a person is already having LME for a period of 1 year, only after that he can apply for
Formulate, Mr. Shukla, you formulate now your submissions. I think we'll close. We got the drift of your submission, but I would like to see a formulation by you. Yeah, give it to us. We'll
There
reflect
is, my
on it.
lordship, the other part of the submission is that
Because this is just typically one of those matters we require a written formulation, you know, because
I will- I will- because it
interplay
is
of
also-
very
because
intricate provisions, you
the
know, it's
other part-
basically statute.
it has been drafted in a very well interconnected way.
So
I will
please formulate it.
I will
Give it to us.
Job, Kaustubh.
Because you would like to think over it, but just give it to us so that we can then
Yes,
have
yes.
something on paper which we can.
What
Yes.
else, Kaustubh?
Anything
I will
else?
do that. I will do
Thank
that.
you. Anybody else?
There is also only 2 points which actually I want to make.
Just indicate, indicate.
Yes. So, as far as the definition of section 10, 10 to D and 10 to E is concerned, it also has to be read considering a very holistic view of the definition clause. It is not a very short summation. The other part is with respect to the rules. So, because it has been
Just formulate it, what you are saying on the rules, what do you have to say on the rules?
as far as the syllabus part is concerned, my lord, rule, my lord, 31J. If my lord may see,
What is your
there
formulation?
is, my lordship, no syllabus for a transport vehicle. The my lordship, syllabus is only for my lordship, light motor vehicle and my lordship, medium oblique heavy motor vehicle. There is no syllabus for transport vehicle. Therefore, to say that there is a different syllabus, it is, my lordship, not in consonance with my lordship, rule 31J, rule 31J itself.
All right, thank you.
Actually, Master, in my written submission, I only just want to point out because my lord is more concerned about the impact of this judgment, my lordship. If my lord would please see my written submission. The my lordship, concept of my lordship, third party insurance is introduced as per chapter 11 of the Act. It was introduced in the year 1994 by way of Amendment Act 54. And if my lord may please see page number 3 of my written submission, my lord. As per section 49, my lordship, which falls under chapter 11, its main object of the amendment is
Page 3.
page number 3, my lordship, my point number 5. Its main object is to provide the adequate compensation to victim of the road accident without going through the long drawn procedure. It is the main object of 1994 Act, and it is therefore there are two kind of insurance. One is a statutory. One is a statutory insurance, which is as per chapter 11 of the Act. They have to have the statutory. They need to have the statutory insurance, lordship. It is a compulsory. It is a compulsory third-party insurance as per the Act. It is not a contractual insurance, lordship, where we take a comprehensive policy for everyone. It is the statutory insurance. And thereafter, the chapter 11 was further amended by way of an amendment act of 32 of 2019. And as per clause 2 of the statement of object and reason, the main purpose was to basically further quantify the loss of the family while losing its breadwinner. It is very categorically mentioned the object of the amendment.
I think, Costa, what you should do is, you have some good ideas. You will have to redo your written submissions.
I will do that, my lordship.
You reformulate this.
And for a simple reason that it is a basic law that a contract of insurance is a contract of indemnity.
All right.
So pain recover, my lordship. The page number 7 is the pain recover, my lordship, because this Swarna Singh judgment is a good law.
All right.
As on date, and only the part which is, my lordship, basically I am worried, my lordship, with respect to the pain recovery, because it is a settled law as on date. The 150 defense which they are talking about is not subject matter of trial. They can take a defense, it is a valid defense, but the defense has to be proved before MSCT. And what we need to understand, my lordship, most of the MSCT matter, my lordship, like the victims are underprivileged. And it is therefore the amendment of 1994 and also 2019 is in a way of beneficial legislation. And accordingly, the rules of interpretation has to go. So I will not expand on that because my lords are very
My lord, appearing in 501.1 and the formulation which my lord was referring to I might provide some assistance there, both regarding the weight and categorization. It's a name of Anuj Bhandari, my lord, 501.1 written submissions.
Visual. Two women.
501.1. On 501.1, I filed my written submission trying to formulate the point my lord just referred to. In the name of Anuj Bhandari, my lord has it?
Yes.
Yes, my lord. My lord, my first submission is, I won't go to the extent of saying that this reference has lost its meaning or it has become infructuous. But with passage of time, my lord, Mukundan was decided in 2017. 6 years since, my lord, much water has flown and things have now aligned in accordance with Mukundan. My lord. There have been 2 subsequent amendments which are before my lords. Mukundan was not interpreting those amendments. What Mukund Devgan was interpreting was 1994 amendment as it stood then. Reference here is Mukundan was wrongly decided. So if my lord is to check whether Mukundan is rightly or wrongly decided, you have to turn back wheel of time, go back to 2017, check 94 amendment, which doesn't make sense because now the provisions, relevant provision has changed. In line with Mukundan, Mukundan said you exclude LMV from transport vehicle, make it its own category. This honorable court says that. Government does the same. I'll show how and when. And now can you say, no, it doesn't mean what Mukundan says?
Show us what steps
Yes.
have been taken after
Yes.
Mukundan to reaffirm. If Parliament has affirmed Mukundan, then it's a matter
Not
of...
Parliament, but practice and rules. I'll show that. My lord, may I have form, my lord, may I have form 4 as it stood when Mukundan was decided. My lord, may I have page...
Is it in your submissions?
No, my lord, it's not part of my submission. It's there in Mr. Dave's submission, page 75. My lord, may I have. This is Mukundan has Mukund Devgan has taken the excerpt of the form as it stood in prior to 1994. From 89 to actually 2001. The form was introduced later. Amendment came in 94.
So this form 75 held the field between?
Form 4 was page 75. Form 4 was in existence from 1989 till 2001. What did it say? Page 75 of Mr. Dave's written submission.
Yes.
My lord has it? Yes. This is form 4. Look at the categories given: motorcycle without gear, with gear, invalid carriage.